from those who enforce the law than from those who make it. If integrity is a prerequisite for law enforcement, it must surely be a prerequisite for those entrusted with determining whether a president has violated the Constitution. Those entrusted with such a consequential responsibility must therefore be beyond reproach. Integrity requirements must be clear, objective, and constitutionally defensible. Therefore, the question before us is not whether we have learned from our failures, but whether we are now going to place accountability of our Constitution above political expediency. Action SA will support measures that strengthen credibility, integrity, and effectiveness of Section 89 inquiries and ensure that no president is ever shielded from constitutional scrutiny. I thank you.
Thank you. ACTP.
Thank you, House Chair. Bearing in mind that to impeach a sitting president is one of the most extraordinary and weighty constitutional acts that this Parliament can undertake. And it is a process that must transcend political factionalism and stand as a flawless, transparent pillar of justice and accountability. This weighty duty was confirmed by the Constitutional Court when it said that accountability is one of the foundational values of our Constitution, and the National Assembly bears the responsibility to ensure that the President is held accountable. It emphasized the issues are of tremendous importance. And so these rules will assist us, but it is so important to emphasize what the court said, that these are, in a sense, jurisdictional facts that require an investigation and an inquiry that is adjudicative in nature, involving the application of law to facts on an objective basis, and which is capable of being subjected to objective scrutiny. In other words, determining whether any of the Section 89(1) grounds exist is not a democratic exercise, but predominantly an inquisitorial, factual, objective, legal exercise. And the ACDP agrees with these submissions and firmly thanks and wants to thank the Sub-Rules Committee and the Rules Committee for setting out these general rules that will assist us, and we look forward to engaging in embarking on the detailed rules that will help us with this objective legal exercise. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. UDM. Rise.
As 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞𝐭, we support the report of the Rules Committee, and one will resist the temptation to respond to what Honorable Manye said. I think he's yearning to be part of the committee. I can talk to the leader of the opposition if he wants to be in the committee. Those that are in the committee knows the work that's happening. So we'll not respond to what he just said today. So the work is continuing, Chairperson. The work of the committee is continuing. Can see.
Thank you. Bosa.
Thank you, House Chair. Section 89 is one of Parliament's most important constitutional responsibilities. It exists because in a constitutional democracy, no one, not even the president, is above accountability and scrutiny. And for too long, South Africans have watched Parliament place party loyalty ahead of constitutional duty and of the rights and the interests of South Africans. And that has damaged public trust in this institution. As BOSA, we therefore support strengthening the Section 89 process, because accountability should never depend on who occupies the union buildings or which party commands a majority in the House. We've long argued that Parliament must never become a shield for the executive and that it must remain the independent guardian of the Constitution. At the same time, accountability must always be exercised fairly. An impeachment process must be credible, transparent, and rooted in due process. If it is seen as politically motivated, it does lose legitimacy. If it's impossible to use, it loses purpose. The question before us then is quite simple, and it's whether these rules will strengthen Parliament's ability to hold a president accountability while protecting the integrity of the process. And this sets a precedent. As BOSA, we believe they should, because our democracy is strongest when our institutions are stronger than the individuals who lead them. Thank you.
Thank you. ATM.
Thank you, Slal. The ATM approaches this debate from a unique position. Together with the EFF, we approach the Constitutional Court to challenge the constitutionality of Rule 129I and the unlawful process that followed the consideration of the independent panel report. It is therefore significant that the Rules Committee has endorsed two principles that form the cornerstone of our case. Firstly, the committee correctly concluded that the proposed amendments should operate retrospectively. This accords with the rule of law, legal certainty, and fairness. The current inquiry must proceed under the framework established by the Constitutional Court and cannot be altered midway through the process by subsequent amendments. Secondly, the committee has adopted a sensible interpretation of Rule 129A(1)(c) concerning the conduct performed by the President in person. The committee has recognized that a President cannot escape accountability simply because unlawful conduct is executed through another person. Where a President instructs, authorizes, or directs conduct that amounts to a serious violation of the constitutional law, the responsibility still remains with the President. On the unresolved proposal that members of the impeachment committee must be fit and proper, we note that the Rules Committee has once again referred the matter back for further consideration. The ATM rejects a vague qualification based on inert jurisprudence, in contrast with the provisions of the Constitution in both Section 19 and 47. That inquiry must now proceed with urgency and the seriousness that the Constitution demands. We note the report as the ATM, but we are disappointed in the Speaker for not defending Parliament. Thank you.
Al-Jama,
No declaration.
NCC, PAC, UAT.
Thank you, Chairperson. 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭 Africa. The United African Transformation rejects any attempt to distort the Section 89 impeachment process through vague, selective, and political convenient rules. The issue before the House is not whether the Parliament should adopt procedural rules for Section 89 inquiry. The real issue is whether Parliament is constitutional accountability, or whether it intends once again to protect the President through procedural manipulations. The UAT rejects the proposal for so-called fit and proper requirement for members serving in Section 89 inquiry. That proposal is irrational, unnecessary, and constitutionally suspicious. The UAT must also state that the handling of this process has reinforced the public perception that the Speaker of Parliament has chosen her political party over the Constitution. The office of the Speaker is not an ANC office or a GNU, and it is not a shield for the President. It is a constitutional office. It must protect the integrity of Parliament and ensure that the oversight mechanisms are not manipulated to serve executive power. The Constitutional Court has already found that the Parliament acted irrationally and unlawful when it failed to deal properly with Section 89 process arising from Phala matter. Instead of correcting that failure with clean, objective, and constitutional compliance rules, the GNU now want to insert vague standards that can be weaponized against opposition members and used to sanitize an impeachment process before it even began. Khani Mambo.
Thank you. Good. 38.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Ours is an emerging democracy. Much of our legislation, legal precedents, and parliamentary procedures have not yet been tested and retested as in older democracies. It follows that from time to time, our laws and rules are tested by the court and that some do not survive. This is how our legal system develops and improves. In the instance of the Constitutional Court's judgment on the 8th of May, it was again a rule of the National Assembly that did not survive the court's scrutiny. This judgment was especially seismic as it saw the judiciary instruct the legislature in how it should deal with the president, a matter that pitted all three arms of the state against each other. This is no trivial matter. The court's remedy was serious, and the rule of law requires that we follow it to a T. One of the court's instructions was that the National Assembly rules be amended to bring them in line with the judgment. This was not a simple task, and I would like to commend the Parliamentary Legal Services for its expertise and assistance to the committee in its work. Honourable members, this report reflects the work accurately of the Rules Committee in compliance with the court's ruling. The report clearly sets out the process that the committee followed in amending the rules. The amendments are fair, certain, and in line with the Constitution. Members had ample opportunity to engage in debate. The Democratic Alliance's proposal on the inclusion of a fit and proper requirement for members to serve on an impeachment committee was rejected. An impeachment investigation is a serious matter and therefore requires equally serious consideration on who ought to participate in it. This consideration necessitates a higher standard for members who serve on the committee, as we are entrusted by the citizens of South Africa to serve them with integrity and uncompromised ethical principles. The principle of fit and proper has been thoroughly thrashed out in the courts, and contrary to the view of the Honourable Kalipi, the meaning in law is in fact quite clear. Impeachment is a serious business, and the individual serving on such a committee should meet a higher requirement of integrity and ethics. It is unfortunate that this requirement was not included, also for future such committees. The process of removing a president undoubtedly draws extensive media attention and elicits strong opinions from politicians. Irrespective of what side of the argument you stand, we must all, at all times, respect the rules of this House, the laws of our country, and the judgments of our court. Respecting the rule of law also means that where a president is found to have broken the law, he should be held accountable for the contraventions. We trust that the rules contained in this report will empower the impeachment committee to conduct a thorough investigation into the events that transpired. We hope that its work will shed light on the matter, as many questions remain unanswered at present. The impeachment committee must conduct its work timelessly, transparently, and in line with these rules. The committee must continue with its work and only halt or delay its processes if instructed to do so by a court. Our country is gripped by crime and violence. Millions of South Africans are frustrated and losing trust in democracy. South Africans do need to see Parliament doing its job effectively. We need to see fearless investigation by the impeachment committee, and more importantly, we need to see the law and the rules applied equally to all, because accountability starts at the top. The DA supports the adoption of the report. I thank you.
Thank you. The ANC.
Thank you, House Chairperson. The African National Congress views the recent Constitutional Court judgment not as a setback, but as a moment of constitutional growth and a democratic maturity. It is through such moments that our constitutional democracy is strengthened and the vision for a united, democratic, and accountable South Africa is envisaged in the Freedom Charter of 1955 is progressively realized. The ANC has always respected the authority of our courts and the binding nature of their judgments. Every judgment of our court contributes to the ongoing development of our constitutional jurisprudence and democratic institutions. The ANC stands firm behind this constitutional path and will continue to do so. It is important that we communicate clearly to the people of South Africa what the Constitutional Court did and equally what it did not do. The court did not find the president guilty of any misconduct. It did not direct that the president must be removed from office, nor did it endorse the findings of the independent panel established in terms of Section 89. As articulated by the Honorable Justice Majid in the third of the three judgments, the matter before the court concerned the procedural conduct of the National Assembly and the constitutional validity of the rules under which it acted. The judgment was not a determinant on the substantive merits of the allegations themselves. The court declared that Rule 129I of the National Assembly rules constitutionally invalid and consequently set aside the resolution adopted by the National Assembly of the 13th December 2022. To avoid a regulatory vacuum, the court read in interim provisions pending the adoption of the permanent amendments by Parliament. Furthermore, the court declared that the independent panel report be referred to the impeachment committee for consideration in accordance with the constitutionality compliant procedures. In response to this judgment, the subcommittee on the review of the rules of the National Assembly undertook the necessary work to drafting the amendments of Rule 129I and related provisions to ensure compliance with the Constitutional Court order. These amendments were
Honorable Member, can you please take a seat? Honorable Manyi, what is the point of order?
Thank you, House Chair. I'm rising on Rule 92 just to check if the member on the podium can take a question of why the President is stopping the impeachment.
Honorable Manyi, you don't ask the question. I think we must ask the member if she is willing to take the question. Are you willing to take the question?
On impeachment.
No, Honorable House Chair, I'm not willing to take a question because Honorable Mani sits in the rules and we are discussing the rules which needs to be adopted by the House this afternoon. So you had your opportunity to debate before this podium in this House. Honorable members, the ANC supports these amendments as a necessary and responsible response to the constitutional judgment. These rules of Parliament are not merely administrative instruments. They are fundamental mechanisms through which Parliament gives practical effect to the constitutional principles of accountability, fairness, transparency, and the due processes. The report before this Parliament's committee responds to the rules as directed by the Constitutional Court. We wish to acknowledge the leadership, honorable members, of the Speaker and the diligent work of both the Subcommittee on Rules and the Rules Committee in ensuring that this matter received the urgency and the attention it required by the Constitutional Court. The ANC further supports in principle the objectives of maintaining the highest standards of integrity, credibility, and the composition of the Section 89 structures. In this regard, we support the continued consideration of the fit and proper requirements for members serving in this impeachment committee. However, we are equally mindful that any such criteria must be carefully crafted in line with the Constitution. The ANC remains firmly committed to the principle of justice, jurisprudence, fairness, and constitutional accountability. We note that the rules has further referred detailed procedural provisions to the impeachment committee, which will assist the development of its terms of reference and guide its work in a manner consistent with the constitutional requirements. Importantly, honorable members, the Constitutional Court has reaffirmed the rights of all persons, including the President and other interested parties, to approach the courts for appropriate relief. The ANC therefore fully supports this right for the President like any other South African. Honorable members, the report before us presented to Parliament is a commitment to constitutional compliance, institutional integrity, and strengthening of constitutional accountability. The African National Congress, honorable members, therefore supports the adoption of the fifth report of the National Assembly Rules Committee, and we thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable member. I now recognize the Honorable Chief Whip.
Thank you so much, House Chairperson. I move that the report be adopted. Thank you.
Honorable members, the motion is that the report be adopted. Are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to. The Secretary will read the sixth order.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities on suitable candidates for filling of vacancies in Commission for Gender Equality.
I now recognize the Portfolio Chairperson, Honorable van der Merwe.
Bless you. Chairperson, honorable members, South Africans at large, good evening to you all. I rise this evening to present to this House the report of the Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities on the filling of vacancies for the Commission for Gender Equality. On 31 July 2025, the Constitutional Court in Corruption Watch versus the Speaker of the National Assembly and others held that Parliament had failed in its constitutional obligation to facilitate reasonable public involvement in recommending persons for appointment to the Commission for Gender Equality. The court declared the appointment of 5 commissioners with effect from 1 March 2023 as invalid, but suspended the declaration of invalidity for 12 months to enable the Speaker to conduct an appointment process and for the President to make the appointments. In compliance with the Constitutional Court judgment, the Portfolio Committee undertook this very important task. The committee met on 21 October 2025 and received legal briefings regarding the judgment. On the day, the committee formulated and adopted a program, advertisement, and an online application form. On 10 April 2026, the committee developed and adopted shortlisting criteria, which was formally adopted, and we also started the shortlisting process. From a total of 111 applicants and nominations, the committee unanimously agreed on 14 candidates to be interviewed. The committee was satisfied that the shortlisting process was fair and just. A shortlist of candidates and the redacted curricula vitae were published on Parliament's website from 13 April to 26 May 2026, a period that equated to 30 working days. To ensure further transparency and public involvement, and mindful of the public interest in gender equality issues, the committee provided a platform for civil society and the public to comment on all our candidates. The committee received an overwhelming response. A total of 249 comments were received. The committee conducted interviews of the 14 shortlisted candidates between 3 and 5 June 2026. The committee ensured that the interview process was open and transparent. Parliament's Human Resources verified candidates' qualifications, and the State Security Agency undertook the required screening processes. The committee convened to deliberate on 9 and 19 June 2026, and having considered all the interviews, the supporting documentation, the verification, security screening, and having considered the National Assembly's request that the committee nominate and recommend candidates for appointment as commissioners for the CGE, the committee unanimously recommended the following candidates, and they are in order of rank and preference. Ms. Leonasia Leanne van der Merwe, Ms. Sikolile 𝐶𝐨𝐬𝐵𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼, Ms. Crescentia Caroline Blaus, Prof. Corné Davis Buitendag, Ms. Mamahopi Clorina Deseko, Advocate Thando Kumede, Mr. Alfred Ufense Macheke, Advocate 𝐼𝐶𝐬𝐵𝐠𝐶 Mogale, and Mr. 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭. Moreover, the committee recommended Ms. Leonasia Leanne van der Merwe to be considered for the position of chairperson. However, the committee also noted the ANC's objection to this proposal, asserting that it should be left to the President of the Republic to make this determination. Finally, the committee noted the leadership and governance challenges within the institution, and to this end, the committee will engage the Speaker on how to formally proceed with an investigation into these matters, the outcome of which should strengthen the institution. My gratitude goes to the honourable members of the Portfolio Committee for their dedication and long hours to fulfil the committee's mandate. The committee also thanks all candidates for their willingness to serve our nation. I also wish to, on behalf of the committee, express our deep gratitude to our support staff, Parliamentary Legal Services, the Office of the Institution Supporting Democracy, whose contributions ensured the committee's work was a success. I hereby table this report to this House for your consideration and support. I thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. I will now recognize political parties wishing to make a declaration, and the usual times for declaration of votes will apply. The MKP.
Oh, okay. Sihlalo ohloniphekile muzi wonke waseNingizimu Afrika, iqembu lomkhonto wesizwe liyaweseka lo mbiko kanye nenqubo elandelwe yikomiti ekuhloleni nasekukhetheni abantu abafanele ukuqokelwa kwikhomishana yokulingana ngobulili. Kuyiqiniso ke sihlalo asikubeke kube kucace ukuthi abantu baseNingizimu Afrika ikakhulukazi abesifazane abasemakhaya ezindaweni ezingathuthukile nasemalokishini abanandaba nalamagama aqokiwe. Abakufunayo nje kukodwa ukubona ushintsho, impilo zabo ziguquka ziba ngcono, bafuna ukubona amalungelo abo evikelwa, ubulungiswa benzeka. Lapha eNingizimu Afrika besifazane basaqhubeka nokubhekana nodlame olubhekiswe kubo ngenxa yobulili babo. Ukuhlukunyezwa, ukucwaswa, ukungasebenzi, ukungalingani emaholweni, ukweswela kanye nokungafinyeleli emathubeni omnotho. Njengeqembu lomkhonto wesizwe sifuna ikhomishana yokulingana ngobulili isebenze ngokuzikhandla nokuzinikela okukhulu nesibindi futhi ikhiqize imiphumela ebonakalayo. Abantu baseNingizimu Afrika bafanelwe ikhomishana ebonakalayo emphakathini yabo isebenza. Sifuna ukubona izinhlelo eziningi zifinyelela le emakhaya. Sifuna ungenelelo olunamandla emacaleni okucwaswa kanye nodlame olubhekiswe kwabesifazane. Ikhomishana kumele ibe yizwi lalabo abangakwazi ukuyikhulumela ngosizi ababhekene nalo. Ikhomishana kumele ikwazi ukuvikela isithunzi sowesifazane okhubazekile, owesifazane osekhulile kanye namantombazanyana amalungelo awo aphulwa zonke izinsuku. Ngomele bame baqine balwe nemikhuba efihlwa ngaphansi kwegama lesiko kube kuphulwa amalungelo abantu, ukuthwalwa kwezingane, ukuziganisa ngenkani kanye nokudlwengulwa amakhehla nje akusilo isiko lelo. Kuwubugebengu obukhulu futhi icala elikhulu elibomvu. Sihlalo isimilo nesithunzi somphakathi sibonakala ngendlela ophatha ngayo abesifazane nezingane. Isizwe esihlonipha omama baso siyachuma kanti esibavumela ukuba baphile ngaphansi kokwesaba nokuhlukunyezwa siyazilimaza sona nekusasa laso. Akukho ke inkululeko ephelele uma besifazane besahlala ngaphansi kwengcindezi. Akukho intuthuko yangempela uma izingane zamantombazane zisaphucwa amathuba azo ngenxa yobumpofu, kwesaba noma amasiko ayingozi. Abesifazane baseNingizimu Afrika sebelinde ubulungiswa isikhathi eside kakhulu njengamanje. Iqembu lomkhonto wesizwe lithi lithi ke selifuna ukwakha iningizimu Afrika lapho wonke umuntu wesifazane ekwazi ukuhamba ngokukhululeka asebenze ngokulingana aphile ngesithunzi futhi avikelwe ngumthetho lokho kuyoba yifa elihle esingalishiyela izizukulwane nezizukulwane ezizayo votela iqembu lomkhonto wesizwe ngomhla ka4 November uzoyisholo wena umkhonto wesizwe uzamawala ugalelekile sovinjwa ulwandle kuphela phakama mkhonto wesizwe phakama
Thank you. Honorable members, please, we need to proceed. EFF. To save time, please, honorable members, there's a seat that is provided here so that we are able to also proceed.
Thanks, House Chairperson. South Africa does not suffer from a shortage of commissions. South Africa suffers from a shortage of consequences. Every year we receive reports, every year we receive statistics, every year we hear commitments. Yet women continue to disappear, women continue to be abused, continue to earn less and continue to bear the burden of poverty and unpaid care work. For millions of women, especially working class and rural women, equality remains a constitutional promise that has not yet become a lived reality. Far too often, the state responds with statements instead of action. The EFF supports the adoption of this report and the recommendations arising from the process undertaken by the Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. This House should not forget why this process became necessary. We are here because the Constitutional Court found that Parliament has failed to properly facilitate public participation in the appointment of commissioners. That finding should remind this House that constitutional obligations are not optional and that public participation cannot be reduced to a box-ticking exercise. When Parliament fails to listen to the people, it weakens the very democratic institution it is constitutionally mandated to protect. The committee responded appropriately to that judgment by conducting a transparent and credible process. Public comments were considered, candidates were interviewed openly and members deliberately before arriving at these recommendations. The question before us is whether the committee conducted a fair process and whether the recommendations emerged from a credible assessment of candidates. The EFF believes that it did. The Commission for Gender Equality is not merely another state institution. It is a Chapter 9 institution established to strengthen constitutional democracy and advance the struggle for gender equality in South Africa. Rights that cannot be defended in practice before promises that exist only in legislation. For that reason, its independency, credibility, and effectiveness are matters of constitutional importance. The Commission cannot be weakened by political interference, factional considerations, or attempts to convert it into an extension of party political interest. The EFF has consistently opposed appointments based on political loyalty rather than competence because South Africans have witnessed the damage such practices inflict on public institutions. Real empowerment requires more than commitments. It requires institution capability of defending rights and holding power accountable. The EFF therefore supports the
your time is
adoption of the
expired.
report. Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you. IFP.
Thank you, House Chairperson. The Commission for Gender Equality is one of the institutions trusted with safeguarding our constitutional democracy. We wish to place on record our appreciation for the exemplary leadership displayed by the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Honorable 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿 van der Merwe. Under her leadership, a process that could easily have been overshadowed by external controversies and internal tensions was conducted in a manner that was independent, transparent, credible, and beyond a reproach. We noted with concern the regrettable and unwarranted personal attacks directed at the chairperson by one of the recommended candidates. Such conduct undermines not only the dignity of members, but the integrity of Parliament itself. We commend Honorable van der Merwe and members of the committee for refusing to allow these matters to compromise the integrity of the process. Importantly, the committee recommended candidates in a clear order of rank and preference. We therefore urge the President to appoint the top 5 ranked candidates as recommended. We support the recommendations made by the committee aimed at strengthening discipline and accountability within the Commission itself. Chapter 9 institution must remain independent, but independence must always be accompanied by professionalism, ethical respect, and democratic institution. The IFP support the report. I thank you.
Thank you. PA?
Honorable Chair, on behalf of the Patriotic Alliance, I rise in support of the report of the Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities on the recommendations of the Commission on Gender Equality. The CGE plays a critical role in advancing gender equality, protecting the rights of women, and ensuring that our democracy delivers for all, especially those who remain vulnerable and marginalized. This report is important because it does not simply reflect findings, it calls for action, it highlights gaps in policy implementation, persistent inequalities, and the urgent need for departments to take gender transformation seriously, not just in words, but in measurable outcomes. For the Patriotic Alliance, equality must be felt in communities, not just written in reports. Women continue to face gender-based violence, economic exclusion, and limited access to opportunities. Young people and persons with disabilities also remain on the margins of our economy and society. These are realities we cannot ignore. We therefore welcome the committee's emphasis on stronger accountability, better coordination across government, and the implementation of CGE recommendations. Government departments must not treat these recommendations as optional. They must be acted upon with urgency and commitment. At the same time, honorable members, we must ensure that the institutions like the CGE are properly supported and resourced to fulfill their mandate effectively. Without capacity, even the best recommendations will fail to translate into real change. The Patriotic Alliance believes that empowering women, youth, and persons with disabilities is not only a constitutional obligation, it is an essential for economic growth and social stability. When these groups succeed, the country succeeds. We will support this report because it pushes government to do better, act faster, and to deliver real change where it matters on the ground in our communities. I thank you.
Thank you. FF Plus?
Thank you, House Chairperson. We support the report, no declaration.
Thank you. Action SA?
Thank you, House Chair. I'd just like to remind the House that 70 years ago, women rejected negative equality when the government of the day wanted them to carry passes like their husbands. So the fact that we want things equal, we must be mindful about whether it's a positive aspect of equality. And what this commission needs to understand, that gender equality is not about at the expense of any gender. It's to ensure that there's equality between men and women. Not to neglect the need for reorientation and re-education of young men so that they should treat women as equals. So we need to ensure that the work is done both ways, and it's not just done one way. This is probably the most important commission we have, but it is underfunded. So I just want to remind us as members that the Constitution says, the Chapter 9 institutions, these institutions are independent and subject only to the Constitution and the law, and they must be impartial and must exercise their powers and perform their functions without fear, favor, or prejudice. One of the ways we are disabling them is by not funding them properly. One of the ways we are disabling them is for them coming to us for funds when we are an arm of the state. They should be able to go directly to Treasury to ask for the resources that they need so that they can be independent. They can't be subjected to a ministry to do their function. And I think it is up to us to understand our constitution properly. These institutions account to the National Assembly and they report, but they don't work for us. They must be independent, they must be properly resourced. We support it, it's woefully inadequate, and it needs to be expanded. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. ACTP?
No declaration, thank you.
Thank you. UDM? Guys?
𝐼𝐶𝐬𝐿 𝐿𝐿 rises to support the work of the committee and commend them in the choice of the individuals to serve in this commission. And we hope that the president will not delay in the same way that the other council for GBVF still has not been appointed. So we hope on this particular one, you will act with the necessary speed to ensure that the work of the committee can be fulfilled and that the individuals are appointed without delay. But we support this report.
Thank you. Posa? ATM? Al-Jama?
Al-Jama supports, no declaration.
Thank you. NCC? EAC? UAT? Good? The DA?
House Chair, honorable members, before we proceed with these appointments, it's very important that we reiterate why the process is before us in the first place. The 𝐼𝐶𝐭 judgment did not arise in a vacuum. The matter originated from 2022-23 process undertaken by this portfolio in 6th Parliament to fill vacancies on the CGE. Following interviews and recommendations by Parliament, the President announced appointment of 5 commissioners on the 25th of February with effect from the 1st of March. Thereafter, Corruption Watch approached the 𝐶ON Court under Section 167, subsection 4E, arguing that Parliament had failed to fulfill its constitutional obligation to facilitate meaningful participation in the appointment process. Corruption Watch challenge was based on 3 concerns. The public was not provided with sufficient information about shortlisted candidates. The CVs were not made available. Public comments were restricted by character limits, and that public was afforded only a short period within which to make submissions. In August 2025, the 𝐶ON Court unanimously ruled in favor of the Corruption Watch and found that Parliament had failed to facilitate reasonable public involvement as required by the Constitution. Chairperson, the significance of this judgment extends far beyond the Commission for Gender Equality. It is a reminder that constitutional institutions belong to the people of South Africa, not to political parties. Honorable members, DA has long argued that public appointments must be based on merit, competence, experience, and integrity. This principle was reinforced by the courts in the DA's successful challenge against the ANC's cadre deployment practices, culminating in a 𝐶ON Court victory in July 2024. That judgment affirmed that party political deployment committees have no place in determining appointments within a professional public administration. South Africa's history provides ample evidence of what happens when merit is abandoned. Many state-owned enterprises and public institutions have been brought to the brink of collapse because individuals were appointed primarily on the basis of political affiliation rather than their ability to lead. The consequences have been devastating, and that is poor governance, financial mismanagement, weakened oversight, and decline in public trust. Honorable Chair, as members of this portfolio committee, we have experienced firsthand the challenges associated with this process. We have went from advertising for vacancies, considering nominations, shortlisting candidates, and conducting interviews. We had to ensure that every stage withstands constitutional scrutiny. We have had to balance transparency, public participation, and fairness, while ensuring that only the most suitable candidates advance. The DA's approach is informed by our record in the Western Cape. where professional public administration, clean governance, and accountability remain central principles. While challenges exist everywhere, the Western Cape consistently demonstrates that institutions perform better when appointments are based on competence rather than political connections. There is much that South Africa can learn from where the DA governs. I therefore wish to place on record that the DA will continue to oppose cadre deployment in all its forms. Any attempt by the ANC or any other political party to use this committee as a vehicle to advance political connected candidates will be resisted. This committee must never be a rubber stamp for party interest. The Commission for Gender Equality deserves commissioners who are independent, qualified, experienced, committed to advancing rights of women, youth, and persons with disabilities. South Africans deserve institutions led by the best people for the job, not the best connected people in a political party. Merit must prevail over political patronage. That is the standard the Constitution demands, and that is the standard that the Democratic Alliance will continue to defend. The Democratic Alliance supports this report. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The ANC.
I must behave. Okay, there we go. Thank you very much, Chairperson, and greetings, honorable members and fellow South Africans. As I stand before you, we must indicate that as the African National Congress, we outright support this report. We'd like to start off by appreciating the dedication that has been put by honorable members in the Portfolio Committee, but also by the individuals who availed themselves to serve in the Commission on Gender Equality, and those that have been subsequently recommended to the President to be appointed as potential candidates to serve South Africans. We must also have an appreciation that in this institution of CGE, it plays a vital and instrumental role in addressing issues of inequality and gender disparities that persist and continue to exist in our country and globally as well. We must understand that this institution plays a significant role in ensuring that there's equity, equal access, accountability, but also we must ensure that gender justice is applied. With this, we have picked up that, yes, there are legislations and processes that we undertake within the National Assembly and in our legislative and policy processes, but yet the implementation might be delayed. The delay for us to ensure the empowerment of women, youth, persons with disabilities, the most vulnerable, those who are non-gender confining, seeks to undermine our democracy. We appreciate this institution, which aligns itself with the Constitution and the NDR of the African National Congress that speaks to a non-racial, non-sexist, and non-discriminatory South Africa. And therefore, it is an instrument and an engine in which it must be able to achieve this and support the work and the engine of government, but also civil society and South African citizens. But we must also indicate that it is equally important for us to highlight that this institution is severely underfunded. And therefore, we would speak to National Treasury, would speak to Appropriations Committee to see what can be done, along with the Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities and the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities to ensure that Chapter 9 institutions are adequately resourced, capacitated and funded so that they're able to ensure the successful implementation of their constitutional mandate. I must indicate that we must say that as the African National Congress, when we were shortlisting and we were recommending, we were very clear and not clouded. We were clear that these processes must be fair and they must be merit-based. We received various and several complaints on various commissioners. And as the African National Congress, we understood that undertaking this process, coming from a constitutional judgment, we must ensure that we follow all due diligence and ensure that we do not face any future litigations. I must say that the Portfolio Committee has done so. We indicated that all the complaints, all the allegations and whistleblowers reports that have been received must be deferred for the Portfolio Committee to interrogate, look into, and get a recommendation report that really gives the results and outcomes of those complaints that have been brought forward to us in order for us to lead a fair and just process. Additionally, with these candidates, it seeks to show a broad representation of South Africans in their diversity, looking at young, women, African, colored, I would say Caucasian, those from the LGBTQAI+ community, and persons with disabilities. This speaks to what our constitution and our democracy stands for. A broad selection of 9 candidates for the president to look into and consider that are willing and ready and competent enough to serve this South Africa. We must also indicate that as the African National Congress, we do clearly reject the motion that says that we must be the ones to indicate who the president must appoint as the chairperson, as this is the role and responsibility and the prerogative of the president, and that should not be undermined by anyone and any institution. And therefore, we hope that all the commissioners that will be appointed are ready to serve South Africans, are ready to address issues of gender-based violence and femicide, issues of inequality, gender disparities that exist, and seek to drive this machinery of CGE to where it needs to be, guiding policy, processes, and acting as a watchdog to ensure that government, civil society, private sector, and South Africans are protected, but also there is accountability. Fellow South Africans, as we stand before you, we know that we're entering into the Jubilee, we'll be entering into the Jubilee month of Women's Month soon. This is significant because this directly speaks to what we speak about on gender equality, but also having an appreciation that gender equality does not only speak and define itself as equality for women on their own. It speaks about a young boy, a young girl. It speaks about male and females who are disadvantaged and excluded. It speaks about South Africans in their diversity. It speaks about those who are non-gender conforming. It speaks about persons with disabilities. And therefore, this vehicle must uphold its constitutional mandate. And I say to you, Ra leboha, and therefore, as the African National Congress, we support this report.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now put the question. The question before the House is that the following candidates be recommended for appointment as commissioners on the Commission on Gender Equality: Ms. Leonasia Lee-Ann van der Merwe, Ms. 𝐶𝐨𝐬𝐿𝐫 𝐷𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿, Ms. Crescentia Caroline Blaus, Professor Corneille Davis Buitendag, Ms. Mamohapi Clarina Diseko, Advocate Tando Gumede, Mr. Alfred Ofense Macheke, Advocate Ntabiseng Sepanya Mogale, and Mr. Xolisa Yekani. Are there any objections to the recommendation? I do not see any objections. Honourable members, in terms of Section 1935 of the Constitution, persons recommended for appointment as commissioners must be approved by the majority of the members of the Assembly. And although a division has not been demanded, members are required to record their support for the recommendation. The bells will now be rung for 5 minutes. Honourable members, we will now proceed. As determined by the Speaker, in accordance with the rules, a manual voting procedure will be used for this division. I will request the table to confirm that we have the requisite number of members physically present in the chamber, that is in the chamber and on the virtual platform. Honourable members, having confirmed that we do indeed have the requisite quorum, we will now proceed. The question before the House is that Ms. Leonasia Lee-Ann van der Merwe, Mr. 𝐼𝐶𝐳, Ms. Crescentia Caroline Blaus, Professor Corneille Davis Buitendag, Ms. Mamohapi Clarina Diseku, Advocate Thando Gumedu, Mr. Alfred Ofensi Macheke, Advocate Ntambiseng Sepanye, Mogale, Mr. 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭 be recommended for appointment as commissioners on the Commission for Gender Equality. Voting will now commence. The doors to the chamber will be locked and members will not be allowed to enter onto the virtual platform. I'm now going to request whips to indicate the number of their members present in the chamber and on the virtual platform and indicate if they vote for or against the question. The ANC.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The ANC votes in support, and we have 104 online and 26 in the House. The total is 130. Thank you.
The DA.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. 55 on the platform, 23 in the House, 78 voting for.
MK.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. We have 17 online and 19 online and 12 in the House, and we support. Thank you.
EFF.
Deputy Speaker, we are 14 online, 3 in the House. We are voting in support.
IFP.
𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐢𝐛𝐬𝐜.
Honourable Mkalipi.
Change.
IFP.
Thank you, Chairperson. 10 online, 6 inside, in favor. Thank you.
PA.
Thank you, Chair. We are 4 in the House, 4 virtual. We support.
FF Plus.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. We are 2 in the House and 2 on the virtual platform in support.
Action SA.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. We are 6 all in the House and we vote in support.
ACDP.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The ACDP is 1 on the platform, 2 in the House, 3 in support.
UDM. Rise.
Rise 1 online, 1 in the House, and we support.
Bosa. Bosa. ATM.
1 in the House, 1 online. We are in support.
𝐿𝐺'𝐵𝐿.
𝐿𝐺'𝐵𝐿, 1 in the House, in support.
NCC. PAC. UAT.
UAT in support.
Good. Is there any member that wishes to abstain or vote differently to their party? Have all members recorded their support? Thank you. The voting session is now closed.
Igama.
Mustn't forget the length of page.
Honourable members, on the virtual platform, or rather let me say the ayes have 250, and that then implies that the required majority has been obtained in terms of section 1935 of the Constitution, and the recommendation is therefore agreed to. Secretary will read the 7th order.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Electricity, Energy and Energy on request by Minister of Electricity and Energy that National Assembly initiates a process to fill 2 vacancies on board of National Nuclear Regulator.
I now invite the chairperson of the committee, Honourable 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭.
I extend greetings to the Honorable Chair, fellow honorable members and the people of South Africa. On the 15th of December 2025, the Speaker referred a letter from the Minister of Electricity and Energy dated the 12th of December 2025 to the Portfolio Committee on Electricity and Energy. The Minister requested that the National Assembly initiates a process to fill 2 vacancies on the board of the National Nuclear Regulator in terms of the National Nuclear Regulator Act 47 of 1999. The committee received 120 applications from potential candidates, 103 applications for the organized labor position and 17 applications for the community representative. According to Chapter 2, Section 8, Number 7B of the National Nuclear Regulator Act, the committee is responsible for compiling a shortlist of not more than 20 candidates from persons nominated to serve on the NNR board. After the committee agreed to a selection criterion and applied that criteria to the 120 candidates, the committee identified 4 candidates for the community representative and 22 candidates for the organized labor representative. The candidates were then publicized to source public comments for 1 month to allow participation of South African citizens in the process and ensure a transparent process. After 2 candidates withdrew from the process, 24 candidates were then interviewed by the committee over 3 days from 9 to 11 June 2026. On the 11th of June 2026, the committee considered the interview scores and commenced its deliberations to seek consensus on the candidates to be recommended to the minister's consideration. The committee agreed to set a threshold score of 75% for forwarding to the minister. The candidates agreed to by the committee for forwarding to the minister are as follows. For the community representative, Mr. Ernest Hladi and Dr. Mosebetsi Leotlela. For the organized labor representatives, the following 8 candidates will be forwarded to the minister. And these are Dr. Pulani Elsie Molokwane, Dr. Margaret Msongi Mkosi Mosatebe, Mr. David Lefutso, Dr. Nomcebo Seramhlanga, Mr. Grandson, Ms. Zandile Machaya, Mr. Modanelwa Fredindo, Mr. Lien Mayana Makubele. The committee further recommends that the Minister of Electricity and Energy ensure that these candidates prior to appointment undergo security vetting by the State Security Agency, confirm and verify candidates' qualifications, ensure that there is no conflict of interest. We appreciate the endurance of committee members who toiled long hours to ensure the success of this process. We further recognize the parliamentary support staff, particularly for the Portfolio Committee on Electricity and Energy and the Parliamentary Legal Services for their counsel throughout. We appreciate all applicants and the individuals who underwent the rigorous interview process, displaying preparedness and eagerness to serve. I table this report before you, honorable members, for your consideration. I thank you.
I will now recognize political parties wishing to make a declaration. The usual times for declaration of votes will apply. The MK.
Good evening, members and colleagues. I think this is one of the most successful processes I've observed. This is what happened when you clean your house. When you tell South Africans they deserve an opportunity, they come forth, they march, they show their qualifications, and they show trust. They don't give you misgivings into documents. We were very happy that the total number of participants was encouraging. We were very happy that the labor movements participated, including the community movement participated. This is what happened when you take away the dominance of political escapes, always wanting to get your own. Sometimes South Africans deserve to be trusted. They came with their qualifications, They showcase whatever that was necessary. Nuclear is a very difficult field. Still, there are very few Black people participating, whether as lecturers or as artisans or as engineers. It is courageous to receive awareness that South Africa still have an interest of an equivalent of X 103 people representing labor and 17 representing community structures. For the committee, colleagues, I think you did a stunning work. And I think as 𝐬𝐿𝐾𝐭, we cannot falter this process by second guessing it, because we saw South Africans coming forth, showcasing, vividly saying we have qualifications in this field or we don't, but we know how it works. We can help. What we can say is the following. Those that are recommended, I have a warning for them. Nuclear consistently is a contested terrain. Please don't go in there and start taking documents you don't know. Deal with the order of the mandate. Remove your mind from interest groups. Remove yourself from wanting to have money and quick back. Do what you think you are supposed to do as required by law and requested by the mandate. I'm warning you, if you allow self-interest and specific international interest to come in and venture on derailing South African journey to nuclear and nuclear prosperity for our citizens, we will have to deal with you. As 𝐬𝐿𝐾𝐭 says, we will even recommend to the minister not to delay the process, but privately to say, every second year of their existence, the state security must vet them again. Because if you leave nuclear people unattended, so much happened in 2 years. Look at the police brigadiers who are now having 6 million. The energy for money intercept loyalty. We need to make sure that these persons.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Your time has
And thank you very
expired.
much.
The EFF. Order, honourable members. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. The National Nuclear Regulator plays a critical role in safeguarding the people of South Africa from nuclear hazards and ensuring that all nuclear activities are conducted in a manner that prioritizes safety, environmental protection, and public accountability. The appointment of board members to such an institution cannot be treated as a routine administrative exercise. It is a matter of national importance. The individuals appointed will oversee a regulator entrusted with protecting workers, communities, future generations, and the environment from the potential catastrophic consequences of regulatory failure. South Africa possesses a unique nuclear legacy on the African continent. Through facilities such as 𝐾𝐨𝐺'𝐵 nuclear power station and the country's broader nuclear capabilities, we have developed expertise that remains strategically important. The success of any nuclear program depends not merely on technology, but on the strength, independence, and competence of the regulator tasked with oversight. The EFF supports the filling of vacancies on the board. Our support is conditionally upon a transparent, merit-based, and transformation-driven process. Appointments must be based on demonstrated expertise and integrity. Madam Deputy Speaker, the National Nuclear Regulator cannot become a site for political deployment or patronage. South Africans deserve assurance that board members possesses the necessary qualifications, experience, and ethical standing to execute their responsibilities independently and effectively. The process must advance meaningful in transformation. The nuclear sector remains one of the most technically specialized fields in our economy. Historically, disadvantaged South Africans continue to be underrepresented in many areas of advanced science, engineering, and nuclear technology. The board must reflect the demographics of our country and contribute towards transforming this strategic sector. We must ensure that the regulator remains independent from undue political or commercial influence. A regulator that becomes captive to the entities ceases to be a regulator and become a rubber stamper. Public confidence in nuclear safety depends on institutional independence and robust oversight. The board should possess a broad range of expertise. Beyond nuclear science and engineering, there is a need for skills environment management, public health, governance, risk management, finance, law, and community engagement. Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, nuclear regulations affect communities and ecosystems, not merely power station and technical facilities. South Africa continues to face severe energy challenges.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Your time has expired.
So we support, Madam Speaker.
The IFP.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, the IFP notes the report on Portfolio Committee on Electricity and Energy regarding the process to fill the 2 vacancies on the Board of National Nuclear Regulator. We have constantly supported a diversified energy mix, including nuclear power, as part of the solution to our country's energy crisis. Hence, our interest in ensuring that the vacancies on the board of the National Nuclear Regulator are filled. It is also a matter of public confidence that the highest standards are maintained in filling these positions. A credible, independent regulator is essential to ensure accountability in the nuclear sector. We acknowledge the efforts of the Portfolio Committee on Electricity and Energy in compiling the shortlist and support its recommendation through vetting be conducted prior to the appointment. The IFPO supports the report and calls for implementation of its recommendation to ensure that these vacancies are filled. This will help strengthen the oversight of the nuclear sector and support South Africa's pursuit of a long-term energy security. I thank you.
The PA.
Deputy Speaker, fellow MPs, and people of South Africa. Vandag wil ons nie net 2 poste op die Raad van Nasionale Kernreguleerder nie. Hierdie poste is 'n toets of ons as parlement die veiligheid van ons mense bo politieke vriende kan stel. Die mense van Suid-Afrika is moeg vir cader deployment. Hulle is moeg vir onbevoegde aanstellings. Concerns was raised to the minister on how the candidates were scored in the interview process. This raises big concerns in the final appointment. Ons sien daagliks wat gebeur wanneer onbevoegdheid die oorhand kry. Ons sien dit by Eskom en ons munisipaliteite, waar korrupsie en wanbestuur die mense van ons land miljoene kos. Ons kan nie oor en oor dieselfde foute herhaal nie. Kernveiligheid is nie 'n plek vir vriende van politiek nie. Wanneer dit by die mense van Suid-Afrika se veiligheid kom, is daar nie plek vir foute nie. Die PA ondersteun hierdie verslag om redeposte gevul moet word, maar ons stuur ook 'n duidelike boodskap. Stel die beste mense aan, nie cader deployment nie. Die mense wat die werk kan doen, laat bevoegdheid wen oor friends. Laat die mense van Suid-Afrika weet dat hulle veiligheid nooit opgeoffer sal word vir politieke voordeel nie. Die veiligheid van ons mense is nie onderhandelbaar nie. Salute.
FF Plus.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, we support no declaration.
Thank you. Action essay.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, Action SA supports a consideration of the Portfolios Committee's report relating to the Minister's request for this House to initiate a process to fill 2 vacancies on the Board of National Nuclear Regulator. The National Nuclear Regulator is not a ceremonial body. It is a statutory guardian of nuclear safety in South Africa, entrusted with safeguarding of the public, the environment, and our broader energy system from the consequences of nuclear risks. Its credibility rests squarely on the strength, independence, and competence of its board. It is therefore essential that any appointment process to this board is beyond reproach, transparent, merit-based, and insulated from political interference, particularly at a time when South Africa is increasingly engaging questions around energy security, baseload generation, and the future role of nuclear in our energy mix. We must also be mindful that the National Nuclear Regulator carries responsibilities that extend far beyond administrative oversight. It is the institution that must ensure compliance with international safety standards, enforce rigorous licensing conditions, and provide assurance to both citizens and industry that nuclear operations are conducted safely and responsibly. Action SA therefore emphasizes that the nomination and appointment process must prioritize technical expertise in nuclear science, engineering, regulatory governance, and risk management. These are not positions for patronage or political accommodation. They are positions of public trust with real-world consequences. We further urge that Parliament ensures full transparency in the selection process, including meaningful public participation where appropriate, so that the legitimacy of the final appointments is strengthened. I thank you.
The ACDP.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. The ACDP notes that this report adequately outlines the process undertaken to fill the vacancies for the organised labour and community representatives on the board of the National Nuclear Regulator. The National Nuclear Regulator plays a vital role in safeguarding the public, workers, and the environment from nuclear risks. It is therefore essential that its board possesses the necessary expertise, integrity, and independence to discharge its responsibilities effectively. The ACDP is satisfied that the committee followed a transparent, fair, and legislatively compliant process. The public advertisements of vacancies, the consideration of 120 applications, and the rigorous interview process demonstrated our commitment to appointing suitably qualified and representative candidates to this critical institution. The ACDP welcomes the recommendation that all shortlisted candidates undergo security vetting, qualification verification, and conflict of interest assessments before appointment. These measures are necessary to protect the credibility of the regulator and maintain public confidence in nuclear governance. It also strengthens accountability and ensures that any appointments are made with full knowledge of potential risks. As kingdom builders, the ACDP supports this report and trusts that the Minister will give due consideration to the committee's recommendation in making final appointments. Thank you.
The UDM. Rise. Bosa. ATM.
No declaration, we are in support.
𝐿-𝐺'𝐵𝐿.
𝐿-𝐺'𝐵𝐿 supports this report, no declaration.
NCC. PAC. UAT.
No declaration from UAT.
Good. The DA.
Thank you, Chairperson. The test of a nuclear regulator is not whether it cheers nuclear energy or nuclear power. The test is whether it's willing to say no. No to shortcuts, no to political pressure, no to cozy industry capture, no to any project, no matter how fashionable, how expensive, or however loudly announced, that cannot meet the highest security standard. That is why the National Nuclear Regulator is so important. It is not a marketing department for nuclear technology. It is not a lobby group for small modular reactors. It is not a rubber stamp for cabinet ambition. It exists to protect people, property, and the environment from nuclear harm. The DA supports this report because Parliament has done its work. The committee considered the minister's request. We advertised the vacancies, and as was announced, 120 applications were received, 103 for organized labor, and 17 for the community representative. 24 candidates were interviewed over 3 days, and a 75% threshold was applied. The parliamentary process was fair and objective. But in nuclear regulation, a clean process must lead to clean appointments, because confidence is built before the first decision, not after the first scandal reaches tomorrow's newspaper front page. And mere process is not enough. A nuclear regulator must be independent in law, independent in culture, and independent in fact. When the subject is nuclear safety, the cost of getting it wrong is not a bad headline. It is contaminated land, threatened communities, damaged property, and public trust lost for generations. So we support the report, but we do not support blind appointment. The report itself identifies 3 red flags. First, Dr. Margaret Nkosi-Motsabi. The report records that she previously served as CEO of the National Radioactive Waste Disposal Institute, where allegations relating to a toxic work environment and bullying resulted in suspension and replacement. Those matters must be properly considered by the minister. Secondly, Mr. Grant Son. His CV records consulting work for the Chinese National Nuclear Corporation. During the interview, he said this related to creating a market for small modular reactors in South Africa, and then later indicated that the work had ended. That must be verified. His claimed doctorate must also be verified. Mr. Son's references also raise eyebrows. When a candidate for the National Nuclear Regulator cites Johannesburg Mayor Dada Morero and Minister Parks Tau as his references, the concern is obvious. This is meant to be a safety regulator, not an ANC alumni network. And with respect, I wouldn't put Dada Morero down as a reference for any job. Thirdly, Mr. Mdonalwa Freddy Ndu. The committee noted that he had interests in businesses that supply Eskom with coal. Now, Eskom is a nuclear license holder. That raises an obvious conflict of interest question. These are not minor footnotes. They go to independence. They go to neutrality. They go to whether the regulator can act as a watchdog or whether it risks becoming a well-dressed lapdog for powerful interests. The minister must therefore do 3 things before appointment: complete security vetting, verifying qualifications, and testing conflicts of interest properly. Not casually, not administratively, properly. Because nuclear governance cannot be run on trust me politics. South Africa has seen too many boards captured by loyalty, too many regulators softened by proximity, and too many public institutions turned into waiting rooms for private agendas. The NNR board must be different. If South Africa pursues nuclear, then safety must come first, before ideology, before procurement, before vanity projects, and before ministerial announcements. The DA supports this report, but our support comes with a warning. The National Nuclear Regulator must regulate. It must be independent. It must be neutral. It must be fearless. Because when it comes to nuclear safety, one cannot take shortcuts. Thank you.
The ANC.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. The African National Congress rises to support the adoption of this report and to make it clear why it matters. South Africa's integrated resource plan places nuclear energy at the center of our long-term energy security. And this is not a contingency, it is a commitment. As we expand our energy mix to meet the demands of a growing economy and a people long denied reliable power, nuclear will form an increasingly significant part of that mix. And if nuclear is to expand, Its regulation must be world-class. An undercapacitated NNR board is not a bureaucratic inconvenience. It is a risk to our energy security, to our communities, and to our international obligations on nuclear safety and non-proliferation. This Parliament does not govern by leaving such risks unattended. Deputy Speaker, this report is a product of a thorough, transparent, and constitutionally grounded parliamentary oversight process. Following referral from the Minister, our committee was tasked under Section 8 of the National Nuclear Regulator Act to fill two very specific vacancies, one for organized labor and one for community representation. These are not ceremonial seats. These representatives are the direct voice of workers and of communities who live and work alongside our nuclear infrastructure. Their presence on the board is a legislative requirement, precisely because nuclear regulation must be answerable to those who bear its consequences. The public response told its own story. 120 applications were received, 103 for organized labor and 17 for our community representative. From those, the committee identified 26 candidates for interview, and we conducted 3 intensive days of rigorous interviews and evaluations. We even set a merit threshold of 75% before a single name was forwarded to the Minister. Integrity was also not just a talking point in this process, it was practice. When a potential conflict of interest arose, a candidate who's simultaneously serving on the Eskom board, which in itself is a nuclear license holder, we did not look away. We sought legal opinion from the Parliamentary Legal Services, and the candidate elected to withdraw. This is what accountability looks like in practice. I also want to speak plainly about something the committee fought for throughout this process, and that is transformation. The nuclear sector remains one of the most untransformed sectors and spaces in our energy landscape. It has been historically dominated, historically exclusive, and historically indifferent to the faces and voices of the majority of South Africans. Our committee was not indifferent. At every step of the way, we fought for Black candidates, for women, for younger professionals who demonstrated merit and who demonstrated it powerfully. We did not lower the bar. We insisted that the bar be applied fairly, and we pushed back wherever it was not. We are proud of the shortlist that has emerged from this process. Topping the organized labor list are Black women holding PhDs, and that's doctoral degrees in nuclear physics, in highly specialized technical fields, who are decorated professionals with distinguished careers. And these are not affirmative appointments. These are the very best candidates. And the fact that the best candidates were Black women is not incidental. It is the result of a deliberate commitment to look beyond the old networks and find the excellence that was always there. And that is the ANC way. In the interest of time, I'm not going to repeat the list of candidates. Our oversight does not end at the interviewed room door. The committee has explicitly flagged 3 matters that the minister must probe before any appointment is sealed. The first is the administrative and suspension history of Dr. Mkosi Motsatepe during her tenure at Nirwadi, and she must be fully accounted for. The second is the past consulting relationships of Mr. Grandson with the Chinese National Nuclear Corporation. That requires verification, and his doctorate must also be confirmed before appointment. Third is Mr. Freddie Ndau's business interest in coal supply to Eskom, a primary nuclear license holder, and that must be examined carefully for conflicts of interest implications. We do not raise these issues to disqualify. We raise them because an NNR board that is not beyond reproach is one that cannot regulate. The minister must satisfy himself that each of those concerns are addressed before finalizing the appointments. Furthermore, we have recommended that every preferred candidate undergo security vetting by the State Security Agency, full qualification verification, and a thorough conflict of interest assessment with no exceptions. The IRP charts a course towards a more secure, more just, and more sustainable energy future. Nuclear is a part of that future. And as we move toward it, the quality of our regulatory architecture will determine whether expansion serves the public interest or becomes a liability. This report is evidence that Parliament is not passive in that process. We do not rubber stamp executive nominations. We interrogate, we evaluate, and we fight for transformation. We flag those concerns, and we hand over to the executive only what has survived scrutiny. As the ANC, we fully support this report. We urge the House to adopt it, and we commit to continuing our oversight of the NNR so that South Africa's nuclear regulation remains what it must be: capable, transformed, ethical, and answerable to the people. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Honourable members, I now put the question. The question before the House is that the following candidates be recommended for appointment to the National Nuclear Regulator Board in terms of Section 7EB of the National Nuclear Regulator Act, Act number 47 of 99, as amended by the National Nuclear Regulator Amendment Act, 2024, Act number 26 of 2024. Community Representative, Mr. Ernest Tladi, Dr. Mosebetsi Leotlela. Organised Labour Representative, Dr. Pulani Elsie Molokwane, Dr. Margaret Msongi Mkosi Motsatebe, Mr. David Lefutso, Dr. Nomkebu Sera Mshlanga, Mr. Grant's son, Ms. Sandile Machaya, Mr. Mudanalwu Freddie Ndu, and Mr. Lean Makaya Makubele. Are there any objections to the recommendation? No objections. The list of candidates will therefore be forwarded to the Minister of Electricity and Energy for consideration. The Secretary will read the 8th order.
Consideration of report of Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development on request to initiate process of filling vacancies in Information Regulator in terms of Protection of Personal Information Act 2013.
I now invite the Honourable Ngola, Chairperson of the Committee.
Deputy Speaker, on the 18th of September 2025, the Portfolio Committee received a referral requesting the National Assembly to initiate the process of filling vacancies in the Information Regulator in accordance with the Protection of Personal Information Act. The requirement to fill the vacancies on the board of the Information Regulator arose due to two specific circumstances: the resignation of a full-time member before the end of their scheduled term on the 30th of November 2026, the expiry of the term of office for a part-time member on the 30th of November 2026. These vacancies were described as critical as they had crippled the council's operation, making it difficult for the board to even form a quorum. The appointment process is governed by Section 41 and 42 of POPIA. Members are appointed by the President on the recommendation of the National Assembly. Candidates must be fit and proper. There is no issue about fit and proper on this one. And they must be appropriately qualified. At least one member must have experience as a practicing advocate, attorney, or professor of law, with the remainder appointed based on qualifications relating to the object of the regulator. Members are appointed for a period of 5 years, eligible for reappointment. The committee invited public nominations and applications via advertisements, subsequently publishing the CVs of all applicants on the Parliamentary website for comments. Following this process, the committee shortlisted 10 candidates. Shortlisted for full-time basis was Ms. Ayanda Mvandaba, Ms. Dinewa Ramakgopa, Ms. 𝐬𝐮𝐻𝐿𝐵𝐷𝐿𝐿, Advocate 𝐿Uvuyo, Advocate 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐵𝐷𝐿𝐿 Mabuza. Shortlisted for a part-time was Advocate Thato Moeng, Ms. Alison Tilly, Ms. Zama Awuzi, Mr. Moses Mulawudzi, Ms. Nandemeshe. Prior to interviews, the committee verified the academic qualifications of the shortlisted candidates. Formal interviews were conducted on 9 and 10 June 2026. The committee noted the withdrawal of 3 candidates during this phase: Ms. Zama Awuzi, Advocate Thato Moeng, and Advocate 𝐿Uvuyo. Candidates were subjected to security vetting as part of the parliamentary selection process. Having deliberated on the interviews and the requirements of the regulator, the Portfolio Committee recommends that the National Assembly approve the following nominations for a full 5-year term: Ms. 𝐬𝐻𝐿𝐵𝐷𝐿𝐿 for full-time basis, Ms. Alison Tilly for part-time basis. Deputy Speaker, we submit to the House for the approval as required by law. Thank you very much.
We'll now recognize political parties wishing to make a declaration. The usual times for declaration of votes will apply. The MK.
Well, thank you very much, Chairperson. I rise before this House this evening to present the considered views of 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐶𝐭 Party on the matter that lies at the very heart of the current constitutional democracy, which is the integrity of our processes and the strength of the institutions we are duty-bound to protect. Our task this evening is not merely administrative. It is a reaffirmation of our commitment to good governance throughout. So this process is to review other processes to fill vacancies in the information regulator. Indeed, the selection process detailed in the committee report was rigorous and followed the legislative framework set out in the Protection of Personal Information Act. However, I wish to note that the importance of this process goes far beyond the simple mechanics of shortlisting and interviews. When we speak of proper processes, we are speaking of the bedrock of public trust. The process we followed from the initial referral and public advertisement on 18 September 2025 to the publication of candidates list, to the thorough screening and verification of academic qualifications was designed to be transparent and merit-based. The interviews on the 9th and 10th June 2026 were an opportunity to scrutinize the candidates' understanding of their potential duties, including their preference to serve in a full-time or part-time capacity. It is this meticulous attention to detail that safeguards the institutions from accusations of impropriety and favoritism. Our citizens must have absolute confidence to those appointed to wield power over their data and their rights are selected through a process that leaves no room for doubt. When we adhere to the process strictly, we send a clear message that the integrity of our institutions is non-negotiable. Why is this process so vital? It is because the information regulator is not just another statutory body. It is the guardian of two fundamental rights enshrined in our Constitution: the right to privacy and the right of access to information. This dual mandate is a monumental on the one hand, and also is very important for the protection of our people. We have seen the regulator transition from an advisory body to a proactive enforcement agency. This is not theoretical. It is having a tangible impact on the lives of ordinary South Africans based on the following principles. 1, enforcing accountability. 2, standing up against global giants. 2, challenge the state and the government. Enforcing penalties and so forth. So these above mentioned milestones underscores a fundamental truth. The information regulator is a vital shield for our citizens' rights. Its power to enforce, to prosecute, and to protect must be wielded by individuals of highest caliber. If we are to maintain...
Thank you, Honourable Member. Your time has expired. The EFF.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the economic freedom fighters participated fully and constructively in the interview process for the appointment of members to the information regulator. We approach this process with a clear understanding that the information regulator is a critical institution in our constitutional democracy, entrusted with protecting the personal information and privacy rights of the people of South Africa. Throughout the interviews, we assess candidates on their qualifications, experience, independence, understanding of the law, and commitment to public service. We acknowledge that the several candidates demonstrated a high level of competence and a sound understanding of the mandate of the information regulator. In particular, candidates such as Ms. Tilly distinguished themselves through the experience, preparedness, understanding, and of the challenges facing the institution. However, EFF wishes to make it clear that technical competence alone is not sufficient. South Africa has witnessed a dangerous trend where independent institutions are gradually captured by and used to protect those in power while targeting those who challenge the political establishment. The information regulator must never become another institution that serves politicians instead of the people. Those appointed today must understand that they are not representatives of the ANC government, they are not representative of any political parties, they are certainly not representatives of private interests. They are servants of the Constitution and the servants of the people of South Africa. The EFF is concerned by the growing pattern where state institutions are increasingly weaponized against activists, whistleblowers, journalists, community leaders, and political opponents. While corruption, abuse of power, violations committed by these connected to the governing elite are ignored. We therefore call upon the successful candidate to resist all forms of political pressure, manipulations, or interferences. The EFF expect the appointees to act with courage, integrity, complete independence. We expect them to defend the constitutional rights without fear or favor. We expect them to protect the people against both private sector abuses and state abuses. Above all, we expect them to remember that institutions do not belong to governments, they belong to the people. The EFF will continue to monitor the work of the information translator and will not hesitate to expose any attempt to undermine its independence or use for political purposes. We support the appointments of capable individuals, but we equally demand unwavering independence, accountability, and loyalty to the Constitution of the people of South Africa. Thank you.
The IFP.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The Inkatha Freedom Party notes this report and reiterates that the regulator exists to uphold the constitutional right to privacy by ensuring that personal data is processed lawfully and securely, and its stability remains vital in an era of rapid digitization. As such, we welcome the transparent process undertaken by the committee, which adhered to the statutory requirements of the Protection of Personal Information Act, the public call for nominations, the verification of academic credentials, and the screening of candidates, all strengthen confidence in the integrity of this regulatory reporting. We further support the recommendations that Ms. 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐿 be appointed in a full-time capacity and Ms. 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐢𝐛𝐞 in a part-time capacity, each for a full 5-year term, by granting a complete tenure rather than a short stopgap until November 2026. The committee promotes continuity in the regulator's work and avoids the instability of repeated recruitment. The IFP therefore accepts this report and the transitions of the recommended names to the President for final appointments, thereby ensuring that regulator is equipped to carry out its mandate effectively. I thank you.
The PA.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, honorable members, the Patriotic Alliance support the report on the Portfolio Committee of Justice Constitutional Development on the request to initiate the process of filling vacancies in the Information Regulator in terms of the Protection of Personal Information Act 2023. This is not a routine administrative step. It speaks directly to the strengthening of our constitutional democracy. The information regulator is the frontline guardian of of our personal data of every South African child. The child whose school records are digitized, the worker whose payslip is stored online, the elderly citizens whose ID copies is shared across multiple systems. When this institution is undercapacitated, the public is exposed, and when the public is exposed, Parliament must act decisively. We therefore welcome the committee's recommendation that the Minister proceed with urgency, transparency, and full compliance with the Protection of Personal Information Act. The days of slow appointment, drifting mandates, and regularity gaps must end. South Africans deserve a regulator that is fully staffed, fully functional, and fully empowered to enforce the law. Laat ek dit plain sê, die mense se data is hulle data. Dit mag nie rond lê vir misbruik nie. 'n Sterk information regulator beteken 'n sterk staat en 'n veiliger samelewing. Die PA staan vas, ons mense se inligting is nie verseil nie of vir skelme gebruik nie. As a committed partner in the government of national unity, the Patriotic Alliance emphasized that these appointments must reflect competence, integrity, and the diversity of our nation. The regulator cannot become another institution weakened by delay or insufficiency. It must remain independent, credible, and capable of acting without fear or favor. It is alleged that the top brass of the ANC's data has been leaked. The Patriotic Alliance support.
The FF Plus.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. The Freedom from Plus supports this report. Let's stop spam calls. Thank you.
Action Essay.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the Information Regulator plays an increasingly important role in protecting South Africans' personal information and enforcing the POPIA. Vacancies undermine institutional effectiveness and should be filled promptly. Parliament followed a transparent process, including public nominations, publication of candidates, verification qualifications and interviews. The committee recommends the appointment of 𝐬𝐮𝐻𝐿𝐫𝐾 full-time and 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐾 Tilly part-time for 5-year terms each. We as Action SA support these appointments. However, we note with due concern that the Speaker wrote to Parliament and asked that these vacancies be filled in August last year. It's 10 months later, and we're now filling these vacancies. Are we really serious about having people doing this kind of job or not? Because the tardiness of this appointment does not reflect well on Parliament. These appointments will hopefully strengthen the capacity and resources of the Information Regulator so that they can effectively carry out its mandate, so that they can ensure robust enforcement of POPIA against both public and private institutions that fail to protect personal information. I, like all the members in this House, continue to receive unsolicited calls every day from people that have obviously got my information somewhere. We hope that they will promote greater public awareness of citizens' rights regarding privacy and data protection. And we also hope that they will let South Africans note that if they break the law, you will forego the Constitutional Rights of Protection of Personal Information Act. If the restriction is reasonable, justifiable in a democratic society and enacted by law of general application, e.g. the criminal procedure laws. We support the appointments of these two people and hope that they have a stellar term in office.
The ACDP. UDM. Rise. Bosa. ATM.
No declaration in support.
Aljamar.
No declaration in support.
NCC. PAC. UAT.
No declaration from UAT.
Good. The DA.
Thank you, Honourable Chair.
The report presents a recommendation for the appointment of the ordinary members to the Information Regulator, following the process undertaken by the Portfolio Committee of Justice and Constitutional Development in terms of Protection of Personal Information Act 2013. At its heart, this matters more about not just simply filling vacancies. It's about whether South Africa appoints people who are properly qualified, fit for purpose, and able to give real effect to the laws Parliament has passed. The Protection of Personal Information Act and the Promotion of Access to Information Act are not decorative pieces of legislation. The nature of these two pieces of legislation is to protect real people. They exist to protect South Africans from unlawful use of their personal information while striking a balance that ensures public and private bodies can obtain and handle information responsibly. The question it raises is, why does this matter and how does it translate to the normal lives of citizens? They ensure that citizens can access information where the laws allow, especially when transparency, accountability, and the public interest are at stake. But laws do not enforce themselves. A well-crafted act on paper does not safeguard pensioners whose personal details are leaked. It does not assist a citizen whose access to information request is disregarded, nor does it fix public bodies' failure to report correctly. Additionally, it fails to hold private companies accountable where they are unlawfully process personal data. For legislation to work, we need skilled professionals in the institutions that enforce it. It is therefore imperative that people with experience, integrity, and technical ability to identify breaches, close gaps, demand compliance, and act without fear or favor are appointed to these critical appointments without delay. It is for these reasons that merit-based appointments do matter. The Democratic Alliance welcomes the committee's adherence to the process of advertising, shortlisting, screening, verification, and interviews. The legitimacy of the institution depends equally on the law that creates them and on the caliber of people appointed to lead and strengthen them. The committee has recommended Ms. 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿𝐿 for the appointment as a full-time ordinary member of the Information Regulator and Ms. Alison Tilley for the appointment as a part-time ordinary member. These recommendations are supported. Ms. Tilley brings direct experience to POPI and PIA, transparency, whistleblowing, and the information's regulator's existing work. Her experience is directly aligned with the regulator's core mandates, particularly with respect to the Protection of Personal Information Act and the Promotion of Access to Information Act. Ms. 𝐬𝐿𝐿 brings a strong enforcement profile. Her legal, forensic information, technology, data governance, and investigative experience is particularly important at a time when data breaches, unlawful processing, weak controls, and poor institutional accountability are becoming more serious and complex. Together, these appointments provide a useful balance. One candidate brings deep rights-based information law experience. The others bring strong enforcement, investigative, and data capability. That is exactly the skills of interaction the regulator needs if it is to move beyond awareness and guidance and into a stronger compliance and enforcement. The Democratic Alliance supports these appointments with confidence that they will help strengthen the enforcement of the Protection of Personal Information Act and Promotion of Access to Information Act. The regulator must be able to identify breaches quickly and ensure that they are corrected. It must prevent gaps in compliance from becoming permanent loopholes while keeping a focused attention to ensure that public bodies and private entities take their responsibilities and duties seriously. In particular, annual reporting under Promotion Access of Information Act cannot be treated as an optional administrative exercise. Public bodies and private bodies where required must properly report on access to information requests. Without proper reporting, Parliament and public cannot know whether the right of access of information is working in practice. South Africans deserve a regulator that is independent, capable, and firm. They deserve a regulator that can protect personal information, promote access to information, and act decisively where rights are undermined. This report gives us a reason for hope. Hope that merit-based appointments can strengthen public institutions and capable professionals can help close enforcement gaps. And I hope that laws of South Africa will not remain promises on paper, but protections in practice. The Democratic Alliance therefore supports this report. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The ANC.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The African National Congress rises in support of the report of the Portfolio Committee on Justice, Constitutional Development, recommending the appointment of Ms. 𝐬𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 as a full-time member, Ms. 𝐼𝐶𝐬𝐵𝐿𝐼 as a part-time member of the Information Regulator. The Information Regulator occupies a critical position in our constitutional democracy. It is entrusted with protecting the personal information of South Africans, promoting access to information, and ensuring that both public and private institutions comply with the legislative framework established by Parliament through the Protection of Personal Information Act and the Promotion of Access to Information Act. The vacancies before us arose following the resignation of a full-time member and the expiring of the term of part-time member. In fulfilling its constitutional and statutory responsibilities, the Portfolio Committee undertook a rigorous, transparent, and participatory process to identify suitable candidates. The committee advertised the position publicly, invites nominations and applications, published the names of candidates for public comment, verified qualifications, conducted screening processes, and interviewed shortlisted candidates in an open parliamentary processes. The process complied fully with the requirements of the Protection of Personal Information Act. As a member of the committee, we were able to assess not only the qualifications and experience of the candidates, but also their appreciation of the challenges facing the Information Regulator at a time when data protection, cybersecurity, digital governance, and access to information are becoming increasingly important. The ANC is satisfied that Ms. 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 poses the requisite expertise, leadership qualities, and commitment to constitutional governance required of a full-time member. We are equally satisfied that Ms. 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 brings valuable experience, independence of thought, and demonstrated commitment to accountability and transparency that will strengthen the collective capacity of the regulator. Importantly, these recommendations are not based on political affiliation or personal preference. They are based on merits, suitabilities, competence, and the ability of the candidates to contribute meaningfully to the mandate of the institution. The committee's recommendations reflect carefully deliberations and a commitment to ensure that the Information Regulator remains an effective and credible institution supporting constitutional democracy. The ANC further welcomes the recommendations that the full-time appointment be made for a full 5-year term. For stability and continuity are essential to enable the regulator to fulfill its growing responsibilities and to provide strategic leadership in an increasingly complex information environment. Honorable members, South Africans expect the personal information to be protected. They expect transparency from institutions that exist public power. They expect independent constitutional bodies to function effectively and without interruption. By adopting this report, the National Assembly will contribute to strengthening an institution that is central to those expectations. These appointments advance the ANC's commitment to build capable, ethical, effective democratic institutions. Therefore, we call upon this House to endorse the recommendations of Portfolio Committee for the appointment of Ms. 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 as a full-time member and Ms. 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 as a part-time member of Information Regulator. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Honourable members, I now put the question. The question before the House is that the following candidates be recommended for appointment for a full 5-year term as ordinary members of the Information Regulator in terms of Section 41(2)(a) of the Protection of Personal Information Act 2013, Act number 4 of 2013. Ms. 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿, full-time, and Ms. 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿, part-time. Are there any objections to the recommendation? I see no objections. Honourable members, in terms of Section 41(2)(a) and B2 of the Protection of Personal Information Act 2013, persons nominated for appointment to serve on the Information Regulator must be approved by a majority of members of the Assembly. And although a division has not been demanded, members are required to record their support for the nomination, and the bells will be rung for 5 minutes to alert members of the voting process. Honourable members, the voting will be a manual voting, sorry, and we will have to establish a quorum. Yes, we do have a quorum, and we will now proceed. The question before the House is the approval of the nomination of Ms. Nomagcina Mchonchi and Ms. Alison Tilly as full-time members for a period of 5 years to the Information Regulator. I just want to check this. It is Ms. Mchonchi is full-time and Ms. Tilly is part-time. Voting will now commence. The doors to the chamber will be locked and members will not be allowed to enter the virtual platform until voting has been concluded. Whoops, are you ready to give the votes of your respective parties? ANC.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker. The ANC, we are voting in support. We have 107 online and 21 physically. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. 55 online, 18 in the House, 73 for.
MK.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. We have 22.
Douglas, my apologies. Honourable Breitenbach, could you please repeat that? The table could not hear.
55 online, Honourable Deputy Speaker, 18 in the House, 73 voting for.
Thank you. Honourable Douglas.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. 𝐼𝐶𝐬𝐿𝐴, we have 22 online, 11 in the House for 33, and we are in favour. Thank you.
EFF.
Economic Freedom Fighters, 14 online, 3 in the House, who are voting in favour.
IFP.
10 online, 5 in the House, 15 in all, voting in favour. Thank you.
PA.
Thanks, Speaker. We are 4 in the House, 3 on the virtual. Support.
FF Plus.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. 1 online, 2 in the House, in support.
Action SA.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. We are 6 in the House and we support.
ACDP. UDM. RISE.
1 online, we support.
BOSA. ATM.
1 in the House, 1 online in support.
Aljamar.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. 1 in the House, in support.
NCC. PAC. UAT.
UAT in support.
Good. Is there any member that wishes to abstain or vote differently to their party? Thank you. The voting session is now closed. Honourable members, the results are as follows. Ayes 282, no abstentions. The recommendation, or yes, let's say 282 have recorded their support, and the recommendation is therefore agreed to in terms of section 41(2)(a) and B2 of the Protection of Personal Information Act 2013. Honourable members, the Secretary will read the 9th order.
Decision of caution on report of Portfolio Committee on Mineral and Petroleum Resources on oversight visit to Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal provinces from 27 to 31 January 2026.
Honourable members, I wish to remind you that this matter was debated in a virtual mini-plenary on Friday, 12 June, but that a decision thereon can only be taken in the full plenary. This is also the case for the other decisions of question the House will decide on when we consider orders 10 to 14 after this. Are there any objections to the adoption of the report? The MK?
Please note the objection of MK.
Noted. Honourable Mkhaliphi?
Please note the objection of the EFF.
Noted. Any other objections? With those objections, the report is agreed to. The Secretary will read the 10th order.
Decision of caution on report of Portfolio Committee on Mineral and Petroleum Resources on oversight visit to Northern Cape on 10 March 2026.
Are there any objections to the report? MK?
Please note the objection of 𝐿. Thank you.
Noted. EFF?
Please note the objection of the EFF.
Noted. Any other objections? Not. With those objections agreed to. The Secretary will read the 11th order.
Decision of caution on report of Portfolio Committee on Science, Technology and Innovation on oversight visit to research and technology infrastructure in Western Cape.
Are there any objections to the adoption of the report? The MK?
Please note the objections of 𝐿 party. Thank you.
Any other objections?
Please note the objection of the EFF.
Noted. Any other objections? Not. With those objections, the report is agreed to. The Secretary will read the 12th order.
Decision of caution on report of Portfolio Committee on Agriculture on oversight visit to Eastern Cape Province from 27 to 31 October 2025 and 27 to 28 January 2026.
Are there any objections to the adoption of the report? The MK?
Please note the objection of 𝐿 party. Thank you.
Noted.
Please note the objection of the EFF.
Noted. Any other objections?
Yes,
And with
Deputy
those-
Speaker, please note the objection of UAT.
The UAT is noted. Any other objections? With those objections agreed to. The 13th order. Secretary will read the 13th order.
Decision of caution on report of Portfolio Committee on Public Works and Infrastructure on oversight visit to construction site Sea Point, Cape Town.
Are there any objections to the adoption of the report? The MK?
Please note the objections of MK. Thank you.
Noted.
Please note the objection of the EFF.
Noted. Are there any other objections?
Yes, Deputy Speaker, please note the objection of UAT.
The objection of the UAT is noted. Any other objections? With those objections agreed to, the Secretary will read the 14th order.
Decision of caution on report of Portfolio Committee on Land Reform and Rural Development on oversight visit to Limpopo Province from 18 to 21 November 2025.
Are there any objections to the adoption of the report? The MK?
Please note the objections of 𝐿 party. Thank you.
Noted.
Yeah. Please note the objection of the EFF.
Noted. Any other objections?
Yes, Deputy Speaker, please note the objection of UAT.
The objection of the UAT is noted. And with those objections, Honourable Dugmore.
Just a point of order, Deputy Speaker. I'm just concerned that when you're asking for objections, there's a competition between MKP and EFF as to who should be the first one. Can you give them a chance, like one and then the other one?
Thank you, Honourable Dugmore. Well, that was the last one, so we are not going to accommodate that. Honourable Mkhaliphi.
We understand that it is late. The member might be very tired. Shame.
Yes, it has been a very long day. So with those objections, the report is agreed to. Honourable members, and maybe this is good news, seeing that it is already very late. The decision on the question on the motion in the name of Honourable S. Lonzi on the order paper today will stand over in terms of Rule 99. That is what we have been informed by the table. And Honourable Mkhaliphi.
Deputy Speaker, with due respect, you want to understand why it was withdrawn? No, it's our member. This is our motion. You can't be howling at me. I just want to understand why it was withdrawn. This is a very important motion.
Honourable member, I will inquire to that, but that is what we have on the order paper. I will ask the table to also find out why that is the matter. 99 refers to the decision of a question postponed. We will get the reason, Honourable Mkhaliphi. Honourable members. Honourable members, I have been informed that this was apparently an agreement between the chief whips. So if you are unhappy with that, please consult with the chief whip of the ANC. Honourable Mkhaliphi.
Deputy Speaker, we can ask the chief whips here. Start from here. No, but why are you howling? Why?
Mkhaliphi.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking through the member. Please.
Honourable Mkhaliphi.
No.
That is what we have been informed, and that is how we will proceed.
Can I make my point? This is our matter. No, I'm allowed. I'm the chief whip today. This matter is here on the order paper. And you can't be telling us that it is because we have entered into an agreement which we don't understand. We need to be outlined with the process why it was withdrawn, so we can clarify that matter. This is very important. It's about the learners who does not afford any school fees here. So we want to know why, Deputy Speaker, and then what is the way forward?
We will definitely inquire into that, and I will also inquire from the chief whip of the largest party. The chief whip. Honourable Skhosana, do you have any reply to this?
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker. We are busy engaging with various chief whips from various political parties so that we try to reach consensus in some of the issues that have been raised. I spoke to Honourable 𝐿engiwe this morning and we agreed. Thank you.
Deputy Speaker, no.
Honourable Mkhaliphi.
Deputy Speaker.
Honourable members.
You can howl as much as you can, but this is our matter. Deputy Speaker.
Honourable members.
No, Deputy Speaker, this matter is very important. Very important. This is the second time you postpone this matter. And there's no reason that is provided with. The only thing that we demand is an explanation why this matter is withdrawn. Because according to us as the EFF, who's the owners of this motion, we have managed to put this matter through the channels of the Parliament. So therefore, the Parliament was supposed to come to us, not through the back door that they are doing. This is a very important matter here if you have not reached out to understand this matter. So therefore, we demand from your office to tell us what happened. And as Chief Whips here, let us meet and discuss this matter. Now.
Honourable Mkhaliphi, thank you very much. Honourable Dugmore, Honourable Zungula, I have now had a way forward from the Honourable Mkhaliphi, who is the acting Chief Whip for the party where this matter is now derived from. So Honourable Mkhaliphi, my ruling is that the chief whips do discuss this and that we get to the bottom of this and what the reason is. Honourable Dugmore, okay. We will now proceed because this is the same with the next point, honourable members, and that is the decision of question on the motion in the name of Mr. V. Zungula on the order paper today will stand over in terms of Rule 99. Honourable Zungula.
Deputy Speaker, it's very important that South Africans are informed why. Because this motion, in fact, both of these draft resolutions are not for us personally. They are for the people. Hence, you find that Amahlubi were here earlier this morning. So it's very important that the decision as to why gets to be informed, especially in the sense that this is the second time there's a postponement. First time there was the lack of quorum in the House, but if there's no tangible explanation today, it's going to impact how South Africans view this Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Zungula. I fully agree with you, and my ruling will be the same as with the Honourable Mkhaliphi, that I do request the chief whips to get together and to find out what the actual reason is and how it was postponed. Honourable Wessels.
No, thank you, Deputy Speaker. I don't want to belabor the point, but I do want to say that the procedure in this House has always been that whips are consulted when these decisions are taken. Whips were not consulted, and I feel that's unacceptable and that should please be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Wessels. Again, I fully agree with you. We are aware of what the procedure is and that whips are always consulted. I, however, am informed, or my information is based on what the table has been informed. So that is where we are at this point. So, honourable members, the way forward is then that the chief whips please consult and that we do get the information as to why these two motions were indeed again postponed, because it is not acceptable. We do have procedures. Honourable members, and then on that point, I request you to stand and wait for the presiding officer and the mace to leave the chamber. That concludes the business of the day and the House is adjourned.
Oh, long day. Hello, Oh, thank you.
Has done so. We indicated that all the complaints, all the allegations and whistleblowers reports that have been received must be deferred for the portfolio committee to interrogate, look into, and get a recommendation report that really gives the results and outcomes of those complaints that have been brought forward to us in order for us to lead a fair and just process. Additionally, with these candidates, it seeks to show a broad representation of South Africans in their diversity, looking at young, women, African, colored, I would say